Greetings, everyone. This is the Gardening Snail of Livingston, California, just trying to keep the community informed with a little historical perspective along the way. In this video, we will be going over the agenda packet for the November 7th, 2023 City Council meeting and focusing on a couple of things. One being the general plan update, which is taking much longer than planned to complete and is going to cost significantly more than originally estimated to complete. The next being the position of elected city clerk, which currently only pays $100 per month, but has a long list of duties equivalent to that of a full-time position. And a knowledge base requirement equal to either multiple years of experience or at least a degree in public administration, in my humble opinion. We'll get into that a little more as we go along. City Council special and regular meeting agenda for November 7th, 2023. They're calling the closed session a special meeting scheduled to begin at 6 p.m. With the regular meeting scheduled to begin at 7 p.m., the public portions of the closed session meeting will not be streamed on YouTube. However, the regular meeting will be streamed on YouTube. Public comments can be submitted via email at citycouncil@livingstoncity.com. Comments must be received by 2 p.m. on the day of the City Council meeting in order for them to be distributed to the Council prior to consideration of the matter. You will need to provide meeting date, item number, name, email, and comment. Please limit to 300 words or 3 minutes, and please include public comment in the subject for the email. Written comments will not be read aloud at the meeting unless one of the members of the City Council decides to do so, but will be reported as received for the record. If you do not receive an acknowledgement of receipt by 4 p.m., please call the City Clerk's office at 209-394-8041, extension 121. Note, this technology is not a guaranteed method. In other words, don't get bent out of shape if your particular comment happens to get lost or is otherwise ignored. Special meeting, otherwise known as closed session. There are 3 items on the closed session. First is conference with legal counsel about existing litigation, Animal Legal Defense Fund versus Foster Farms. This has been getting batted back and forth since at least September of 2020. At the heart of the matter, the Animal Legal Defense Fund is claiming Foster Farms uses way too much water processing chickens and wants them to change how they kill and process chickens. I already did a video about this when the lawsuit was first filed. I'll leave a link to the video in the description of this video for those of you who want to look over the whole thing yourself. The second item under closed session is the city looks to be getting ready to sue somebody. I don't know who. Not yet. We won't really know until the case is actually filed. Third on the list is conference with legal counsel about a significant exposure to litigation. Again, we won't really know who's looking to sue until the case is actually filed and there's a case number. On to the regular meeting. After the Pledge of Allegiance, moment of silence, roll call, closed session announcements, and changes to the agenda is citizen comments, which allows you to address the City Council on any item on the agenda or not on the agenda. Comments are normally limited to 3 minutes. After that is awards, presentations, and proclamations. There are 2, the first being a proclamation recognizing Sikh Awareness and Appreciations Month. The second being a presentation by Train Technologies regarding Energy Service Company project updates. This has been an ongoing project since December 2019 and was promised to provide significant cost savings on electricity use over a 20-year period. After that is announcements and reports, with a featured report being an update from the Public Works Department. Part 1 of Who's Who on Boards and Commission, and Part 2 of Who's Who on Boards and Commissions. After that is the consent agenda. Items on the consent calendar are considered routine or non-controversial and will be enacted by one vote unless separate action is requested by a member of the public, the city manager, or city council member. Item 3, ratifying check warrants, is fairly routine. Item 4, City Treasurer's Investment Report for the month ending September 30th, 2023, shows how much money was in F&M Bank and how much money was in the local agency investment fund account at the time. Item number 5 is about awarding a contract to keep traffic signals maintained and in working order. Item 6 is about buying a new portable diesel generator to ensure that the sewage collection system keeps things moving along as it should, even if the power goes out. Item 7 is a public hearing amending the municipal code and supposedly spelling out the duties of the elected city clerk and the deputy city clerk. It's supposed to clarify who's supposed to do what. We'll see how much clarity we get when we take a look at the staff report. Item number 8 is about that general plan I mentioned earlier, the one that's taking longer than planned to finish and will end up costing more than planned to finish. And where will that extra money to finish come from? From the general fund. We'll see that when we get into the staff report. Before we get into the staff report, let's take a look at the Treasurer's report for the period ending September 30th, 2023. Keep in mind that this is a snapshot of a single moment in time. At the end of September, there were $39,516,979 in the State Local Agency Investment Fund, $493,956 in F&M Bank, for a grand total of $40,010,935. For those of you who care about such things, the average daily balance in F&M Bank for the month, according to the bank statements, was $423,830. About the traffic signal maintenance contract. The current contract will be expiring soon, and it's necessary to get a new contract in place before then. After sending out requests for proposals, posting the request on the city's website, and following up with phone calls, the city managed to eke out a grand total of 2 proposals. Here are the cost totals for the number nerds out there. Here's the scope of services for those of you interested in what exactly the contractor is supposed to do, and the recommendation to give the contract to SFE. Contract fees to be paid for by street budget accounts such as the gas tax account and LTF, meaning the money is supposed to come out of these special funds and not the general fund. Money in the gasoline tax fund comes from gasoline taxes and can only be used for construction and maintenance of city streets and roads. LTF funds come from the 1/4 cent statewide sales tax and can also only be used for local streets and roads construction and maintenance. More about that new portable diesel generator. Under background, it's noted that sewer lift stations function by leading sewage waste into the wastewater treatment plant with the help of power and gravity. However, some sewer lift stations do not have on-site backup power. If the main power was to fail, the backup generator could help keep things moving along as it should. Under fiscal impact, it states it will be $33,602 expended from the fiscal year 2023-2024 approved budget. I know I'm being picky, but I wish they'd be more specific here and say something like it will come out of the domestic wastewater fund, which, by the way, is funded by user fees as part of the sewer bill. Now we get to the staff report about the ordinance about city clerk responsibilities and deputy city clerk responsibilities. The intent is to provide clarity with respect to the city, so let's see what we can see. Before we do that, however, let's keep in mind that the stipend for the elected city clerk is only $100 per month. And the only mention of the deputy city clerk I've been able to find in the municipal code relates to the power to administer oaths and affirmations in any investigation or proceeding. While the city's own website states the deputy city clerk is responsible to serve as the filing officer for the Fair Political Practices Commission, the preparation of city council meeting materials and public notices, and other responsibilities that you see highlighted here. On to the ordinance, beginning with the whereases and wherefores and therefores that you can pause to read at your leisure. Moving on to the city clerk responsibilities, beginning with any bond necessary that would be paid for by the city, and the first two responsibilities being attending all regular meetings and keeping all ordinances and resolutions, followed by 14 different subsections, some of which referencing duties and responsibilities covered in other parts of California law, like the California Public Records Act, the Elections Code, the California Political Reforms Act, the city's Municipal Code, and the Tort Claims Act. That's an awfully hefty knowledge base for your average $100 a month elected city clerk, don't you think? And if I'm reading subsection O correctly, a city manager would have to agree to the appointment of a deputy city clerk. So what happens if the city manager does not agree? Now let's move on to the appointment of a deputy city clerk, assuming that deputy city clerk would have the knowledge base and technical competence to perform the duties we've already looked at, and the city manager agrees. This whole paragraph strikes me as being a bit vague. I thought the whole purpose behind these discussions was to decide which city clerk duties would be mandated to the $100 a month elected city clerk and which could be delegated to the deputy city clerk. I guess we'll see where this discussion ends up going the night of the meeting. Moving on to the general plan update, an environmental impact report that is taking longer than planned to get done and is going to end up costing more than planned to get done. The term of the original contract was from January 2020 to January 2022. Work started on March 19, 2020 and continued until July 2021 with the departure of the city manager and staff planning consultant at that time. Departure of the city manager is basically a bureaucratically polite way of saying the city manager left without mentioning that it was because 4 out of the 5 city council members at the time decided to fire him. It was the firing of the city manager, along with other events such as the ouster of the police chief, that triggered the recall movement that began shortly thereafter. But I digress. In August 2021, the consultant was directed to pause work by city staff at the time. Makes sense. If your upper management is in turmoil, it's hard to keep track of legally and technically dense things like general plan updates. In January of 2022, the city manager executed an amended agreement to continue and extend the term of the existing agreement. By the way, that would have been our finance director who got bumped up to city manager, but only seemed to last as city manager until early November 2022, but I digress again. In mid-2022, new city staff reached out to the consultant team to discuss restarting the project. On January 24, 2023, the city held a joint City Council Planning Commission joint study session to review work completed and the schedule remaining. At this point in time, the consultants have completed 4 of 8 phases. The consultant was last working on phase 5, evaluating land use alternatives, when the contract for services lapsed on June 30th, 2023. Oops. Since the existing general plan was adopted in 1999, new laws have been adopted. Plus, the general plan needs to be updated before the city can even think about updating master plans, which is a whole nother series of documents that will end up costing even more boatloads of money down the line. Here's the part about development impact fees and capital improvement projects. Pause to read. So what should the council do? One option would be to not proceed with the general plan and rely on the 1999 general plan, which has its own list of downsides. The council could desire to hire somebody else, but that could end up costing another whole boatload of money, depending upon who got hired to do the job. Staff is proposing an amendment to the contract that we already have to extend the timeline to September 30th, 2025 for the bargain price of only $83,988 more than what was originally planned for. So what's the catch? There isn't currently enough money in the General Plan Update Fund number 2007 to cover it all, and the general fund would have to kick in over $74,000. And by the way, another reminder here, this does not cover the cost of master infrastructure plans or the city's contract with MCAG to update the housing element. The cost for those undertakings are expected to hit us during the fiscal year that begins July 1st, 2024 and ends on June 30th, 2025. And for those of you who are wondering when this thing is finally supposed to get wrapped up, here's the proposed schedule. If you like what I do here, please follow me on Facebook and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And remember, editorial content is my own as a long-term resident of Livingston and does not represent the views and opinions of the City Council or the City of Livingston itself, and sure does not hold itself out to be any kind of legal advice.